Intent to vote to convict the president on both articles of impeachment is with us from our studios on the Hill. Democrat Tim Johnson of South Dakota, who has not publicly announced his decision as of tonight, with us from the Hill as well. Senator Johnson, we wanted to allow you this opportunity to go ahead and do so.
I will vote not guilty on both Article 1 and Article 2 tomorrow.
Give us briefly your reasoning.
I think that both articles fail both for purposes of rising to a sufficiently serious level of crime to justify overturning the 1996 election where 46 million American people voted for President Clinton. And I think that the beyond all reasonable doubt evidentiary standard has not been met in either one of these two counts brought to us by the House managers. I think the House managers tomorrow are going to suffer a massive defeat.
Senator Smith, leads us to you. Did the House managers really prove this case to you beyond a reasonable doubt?
They did, or I wouldn't be voting to convict the president. Frankly, I have no doubt that perjury has occurred in multiple cases and circumstances, and obstruction of justice occurred. I just found that when all the evidence was in order to sustain reasonable doubt, I had to suspend common sense. And for me, these are high crimes. They warrant removal.
Now, Senator Snowe, the widely watched Republican from Maine, voted no on both, and much has been made of this simple majority, even though it is found nowhere in the Constitution where impeachment is concerned. Is too much being made of this simple majority? Is it just a way to let the House managers exit feeling better?
Well, I'm not going to criticize any senator, Republican or Democrat, who will vote to acquit the president. I know how difficult this is. This is the hardest thing I have ever done in my life as a lawmaker. And so I suspect too much is being made of a majority. The fact of the matter is we're here because of what the president did. The House had a duty, they did it, and the Senate is now about to finish its duty.
Senator Johnson, it does lead us into punishment. The Democratic line in the last 48 hours has been, look, he was impeached by the House. Isn't that punishment enough? Do you subscribe to that? Or, for example, do your constituents want to see you go just another step forward where language is concerned?
Well, I support a censure resolution. I don't think it's all that important, frankly, but I do support it. It is an expression on the part of the Senate that while the conduct was simply not there to justify the removal of the president for the first time in all of American history, that at the same time we don't want anyone to make a mistake that this is somehow an exoneration of his personal conduct. It is not. His personal conduct was irresponsible and it was wrong. And I think that there are mechanisms that senators are looking at to express that with an exclamation point.
Absent that, if you don't get the chance, because of course the Republicans don't want to give you the opportunity to go home and say, look, I punished my own guy, what are the American people to think? Because the term we've been using, of course, is the president walks when this is done.
Well, of course, the House of Representatives did not permit a vote on censure, and it appears very likely that the Senate Republican majority will prevent there being a vote on censure in the Senate as well. If that's the case, I think that we will probably just round up as many co-sponsors on a resolution as possible, lay it down in the congressional record for all of history to see, and then each individual can express their own disappointment and concern about the president's personal conduct. I think that'll be sufficient.
Final question for you, Senator Johnson, before we move over to Senator Smith again, and that is, perhaps you heard our opening soliloquy tonight. It is an incredible story when you look back a few years. Who do we see about that? What do you tell the folks back home about all the harm that's been done to the institution, to the discourse, all of it?
Well, there's been a great deal of harm, I think, done to exacerbate a level of cynicism that the American public has about their government. I think that there is a lot of finger pointing to be placed, some obviously at the president, whose personal behavior was irresponsible and is not condoned by anyone. I think the special prosecutor, on the other hand, also ought to be subject to some blame. And I think the level of demonization and personal attack has grown to just such an extraordinary level that we in the Senate, I think, need to try to shut that down and at least conduct this affair with a level of dignity and without the kind of demonization that has so characterized the House of Representatives in their approach to this crisis.
Senator Smith, Democrats are buying a lot of TV time. They've got a lot of friends. There are a lot of paybacks due. Are you worried at all?
Well, obviously they have a right to advance their agenda, and we have the duty to oppose it. But what I hope the president will say tomorrow is that he wants a legacy different than the one he's got right now because of this scandal. And if he wants a legacy, there'll be a lot of us anxious to help him on issues like education, Social Security, and I hope some tax cuts too. But if he just wants a political fight to continue this politics of personal destruction, he can have that too. But I don't think that helps him, and I don't even think that helps his party. So I think good government will translate into good politics, frankly.
Senator Smith, if you became a White House volunteer tomorrow, would that help the Legacy Department? Isn't his legacy, in plain English, cooked and going to read pretty much impeachment for the first paragraph?
That's a tragedy, because this is a man of enormous talent and ability, and that makes all the worse the enormity of what he's done here, and such an opportunity squandered. But I would counsel him to be contrite, to reach out to people on both sides who do not wish him ill. I've never been a Clinton hater. I'd like to be someone who can work with him where I can agree with him, but I have to oppose him where I think he's wrong, and done that in the past, and regret having to vote for his guilt, but I am at peace with my vote.
Senator Johnson, I lied. One more question. What perhaps was your last contact with this president? What do you plan to say to him in your next one?
Well, obviously, the president's behavior was a disappointment to us all. But on the other hand, we need to move on. I think that many of his budget ideas, his priorities to help middle and working class families, to invest in our kids, in our schools, in our environment, to have a responsible budget that will lead us into a generation of surpluses and reduced debt, is something that is simply extraordinary. And once we move beyond this impeachment process, I want to work with him, and hopefully it'll be a bipartisan effort that will strengthen America and strengthen opportunity for all of our families.
Hey, gentlemen, you've both been nice to come on after a long day of closed-door debate in the Senate. We appreciate it. Senator Tim Johnson, Democrat, South Dakota. Gordon Smith, Republican of Oregon. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian.